Should you buy the iPhone XS in 2024? And is it still usable? Well, let's find out. As you know, I like to review old iPhones because there's something interesting, there's something different in reviewing old tech, especially old iPhones. iPhones are one of the most valuable tech items in the world right now, and they age pretty well. Again, you can still use your 6-year-old, your 5-year-old iPhone, and most of them are still supported in 2024 by Apple. And the iPhone XS is no different. It still supports iOS 17. And this iPhone came out in 2018, so it's now 6 years old. The iPhone XS was thought as one of the smallest upgrades ever to the iPhone lineup. Yes, it was the predecessor to the iPhone X, and the iPhone X was the biggest change ever to the iPhone. I risk to say that the iPhone X was the best iPhone ever, at least the best iPhone upgrade ever. While the iPhone XS, the iPhone XS was a very, very small upgrade that introduced the bigger sized iPhone XS Max, nothing more. The iPhone XS gave us the gold color. The iPhone XS firstly introduced the max sized phone, and it was also introduced with the iPhone XR. So I think that the iPhone XS was the supposed iPhone X. I think Apple rushed the iPhone X's launch by 1 year. I think Apple was supposed to launch the iPhone X in 2018, not in 2017, with the iPhone XS. This is just pure refinement, and that's why Apple called the iPhone XS. This is simple, and it's the definition of the S year. So if you are excited, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Let's talk about the iPhone XS. The design of the iPhone XS was very familiar for the time. This was the complete same design as the iPhone X. And it actually makes sense, because the iPhone X was completely revolutionary at the time. It completely changed the design of the iPhone in 2017, and it changed the future of the iPhone look forever. The iPhone X set a trend for the next couple of years of the iPhone. Until the iPhone 11 Pro Max, the iPhone X had the same design, the same overall shape as the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is quite weird. Because again, that's 3-4 generations of iPhones with the same design trend as the iPhone X. And if you look at the front, the only differences we'll find between the iPhone X and the most current iPhone 15 Pro Max is actually the bezel size and the notch size, nothing more. So the iPhone X actually reshaped the way that we looked at our iPhones, removed the home button and introduced gestures. And in these very tough circumstances was the iPhone XS born. This iPhone came out after the biggest upgrade ever to the iPhone, the biggest change ever, a complete revamp in the way that we use it, the way that it looks, the technology that it uses, and it was supposed to be another upgrade. What can Apple do with the iPhone XS? Well, they did not do much. The design was the same stainless steel sides, the same two colors, black and silver, but they introduced a new gold color that was supposed to come out with the iPhone X, had some issues, and only came out with the iPhone XS. That's one of the reasons that people say that the iPhone XS was supposed to be the iPhone X, and Apple rushed the iPhone X because of the Samsung Galaxy S8. But again, the iPhone XS was a pretty good phone nonetheless. It had the same design as the iPhone X, but a better refinement. It had a better battery, it had a better camera system, and it had something that the iPhone X did not have: familiarity. Yes, the iPhone XS was not familiar to people. Most people don't like to buy expensive phones that are very different from their own, because they don't know if they will like it or not. But because the iPhone XS came out of the iPhone X, most people already knew and actually liked the iPhone X design, and they understood that the iPhone X way of doing things was the correct way. And so they believed in the iPhone XS. The iPhone XS design was completely the same as the iPhone X, and it continued the trend of highest selling model on Apple's website. Again, Apple also launched the iPhone XR, which had about the same design as the iPhone XS, but it only had one camera and it had an LCD display. It was a bit bigger. This is a 5.8-inch display. The iPhone XR was a 6.1-inch display, an LCD. This was the OLED display, and it had thicker bezels. It was a bit bigger, a bit thicker, and it was made of aluminum. While the iPhone XS, completely made of stainless steel, super premium, glass on the back, glass on the front, looked amazing. It had this 3D screen effect on the borders, looked incredible. It was super comfortable to hold in your hand. The design is amazing. It's still one of my favorite designs ever on an iPhone. The dual camera system on the back looks incredible. Let me see if I can focus. Here, looks incredible. The flash, the telephoto, the main camera, everything looks amazing on this phone. And the colors, the gold color was incredible. The gold here was one of the best golds I've ever seen on an iPhone. The space gray was not bad, but the silver one, well, the silver one was the one that I was in love with. But now I understand that the silver one was more beautiful, and I wish that I got the silver one, but you cannot go back. I have the space gray or the black, whatever. It does not look bad, and this design, well, this design is a legendary design on the iPhone. This design outdated quite a bit. Now, the newer iPhones have a squared-off design, and they feature the contour edge corner. At least, the new design of the iPhone 15 Pro Max is a mixture between the design of the iPhone 12 Pro and the design of the iPhone 10. And now you got the design of the iPhone 15 Pro. That design, in my opinion, is the best of both worlds, is almost as comfortable as the iPhone XS. It is not as much comfortable, but it's almost as comfortable, and it looks amazing. It feels premium in the hand, just like the iPhone 12 Pro. So, yeah, this design is a bit outdated, but I do believe it's still very, very premium. As for the display, this had the same display as the iPhone X, an OLED 5.9-inch display. This only had 60 Hz, and at that time, phones with 120 Hz started appearing. It was not a big feature yet, but at least in 2018, the iPad Pro firstly introduced ProMotion, and when they did, everyone was asking for ProMotion on the iPhone. It only came out in the iPhone 13 Pro Max, I think 3-4 years later, but still, the iPhone XS OLED display was incredible. The colors were very, very good, the blacks, amazing. OLED displays were still new on the iPhone, and everyone was just enjoying the amazing OLED displays, the blacks, the incredible colors, the peak brightness. Everything on this display was incredible. And, oh my god, the borders, the notch, the bezels. This was still very new in 2018. Again, the iPhone X only came out at the end of the year of 2017, so it was like 8 months old when the iPhone XS came out. So it was still very new, and the iPhone XS, like I told you before, just gave continuity to the iPhone X's launch. The same design, the same display, a bit better processor. I think it was the A12 on this iPhone, a bit better, not as good, but a bit better. It lasted one more generation or 2 more generations than the iPhone X, and yeah, the same display, the same borders, the same new gesture system that everyone loved on the iPhone X, the same dual camera system. But here's the thing, the OLED display was such a big of a change on the iPhone X that in the iPhone XS, having the same display 6 years later, is still an incredible piece of technology. But here's the thing, because of the iPhone XS got an OLED display just like the iPhone X, in 2024, it's still very, very usable. Incredible display actually. Looks amazing, the colors are still very natural, and I think if you are coming from an iPhone 11 with an LCD display to an iPhone XS, you still love this incredible OLED display. 60 Hz though, no 120 Hz. As for the battery, this was one of the biggest issues of the iPhone XS, not the XS Max. The iPhone XS was kind of a disappointment in terms of battery. The iPhone X was bad, trust me, bad. The iPhone XS was a bit better, and the iPhone XS Max was actually pretty good. The good battery life only came on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, but the iPhone XS had okay battery life for the time. It lasted you throughout the whole day when it was new. Now you'll have some trouble using this phone throughout the whole day without charging. Again, it's a battery that is now like 6 years old, so you should not expect amazing battery performance. If you can find a good example with good battery health, maybe you will have 75% of your day covered. If you can find an example with not that good battery health, trust me, you'll have to charge it twice a day, 3 times a day. This battery life at the time was not that great. In 2024, 6 years of degradation in, it shouldn't be that good. This iPhone also features wireless charging, does not feature MagSafe, that was only introduced on the iPhone 12s, but still features wireless charging, so if you like that, the iPhone X features it. It's a glass back phone, so it won't overheat that much while wirelessly charging. It will overheat a bit, not that much. Oh, and something important about the iPhone X, it features a Lightning port. So if you still use Lightning iPhone in 2024, that's no issue. But if you have an USB-C ecosystem and you are considering buying the iPhone X as your first iPhone, be reminded that this uses Lightning. iPhones like the iPhone 15s, they have USB-C. The iPhone X and XS don't. So be very careful. Lightning is an outdated port. It's on its way out. So if you are buying an iPhone XS in 2024, be very careful. This has a Lightning port. One thing that actually got really, really good on the iPhone XS was the speakers. The speakers here were finally getting one of the best in the business. Apple now in 2018 had amazing sound systems. The iPad Pro was an example of that. The 2018 version had insane speakers, and the iPhone XS does not fall short on the phone equivalent market. These speakers were one of the best in the business, and in 2024 they are still very, very usable. Take a listen. As for the performance of the A12 chip, well, it's 6 years old now. And again, I made a video that I released like 2-3 days ago on the iPhone 7 Plus and using it in 2024. And I told you that I had no issues using this A10 chip. And the iPhone XS with the A12 chip should be no different. And it is no different. But if you start installing the most recent iOSs and start running very intensive tasks and apps, the iPhone will chug a bit. Because again, this is a 6-year-old chip. It still runs iOS 17 just fine, but it has a different charm to it. It's a bit slower, because of the 60Hz display does not feel as smooth as the most recent iPhone Pro models. So, if you notice some lag, that's normal. If you want to play very intensive games, do very intensive tasks on your iPhone, like recording very long clips of 4K video, be careful. The iPhone X's battery and processor will overheat, and it will drain your battery life, and it will lag a bit. Other than that, this A12 chip is fine for most use cases, is fine for playing normal games, normal mobile games, social media, YouTube runs just fine, it has the most updated versions, so this A12 chip, more than fine for most use cases. Well, this is probably the part that you are most excited for and you want to know the most, the cameras. Everyone loves their cameras on their phones. And everyone loves iPhones because they have always great cameras that translate to social media. What am I saying? Well, if you notice that all of your iPhone's pictures and videos look better on social media than your Android counterparts, that's the issue. Because Android apps are not as well optimized for the cameras as iOS apps. Because Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, they optimize their algorithms better to work with iPhone cameras. Because again, in the US, there are more iPhones than there are Androids. So they optimize for iOS better. And that's easy to understand. It's a question of profit. And that's why older iPhones still take better video than most current Android phones for social media. I think Samsung has pretty much fixed the issue, but the other Android brands still have lots of trouble. And lower-end Samsung phones, lower-end Android phones, they do still definitely have this issue. It's a big problem on Android phones. Your videos, your photos on social media will look pretty trash. While the iPhone XS video and photo will look still usable in 2024. Again, it has that iPhone look. Although the photos are not as over-processed as the most current iPhones. This takes a more light approach to taking photos. This had the second generation or third generation HDR for the first time. It was one of the technology they introduced with the iPhone XS. It was actually noticeable while taking photos. It was not as bad. It had the 2x telephoto, it had a bigger sensor. Again, this camera was not as different as the iPhone X, but it had some improvements, especially in low light performance, especially taking video and of course using HDR, that make the difference between the iPhone XS and the iPhone X. Actually, if you put an iPhone X photo and an iPhone XS photo, one against another, you will notice some differences. For a very small update, I think that's pretty good. As for the video, this is still, at that time, for a cheap phone, one of the best videos you can take. Insane how an iPhone that is 6 years old, you can pay $200, $150 for, still takes better video than mid-budget Android phones that are from this year. Insane, insane. That just shows you how good the cameras on the iPhones are, how the longevity of these phones are so insane, and that's why they still hold their value pretty well. Again, I need to mention this again and again. This is a 6-year-old iPhone. 6-year-old piece of technology that is still very useful. It's still supported in iOS 17, the most recent iOS version. If you want to buy an iPhone XS for your secondary iPhone, for a replacement iPhone for a while, for very, very cheap, buy the iPhone XS. This is a great option. If you are looking for your daily driver, I wouldn't buy the iPhone XS. This will probably lose support for iOS 18. I don't think it will get that most recent update version because of AI. I think this processor is getting a bit slow, so I don't think it will get the most recent iOS version. iOS 18 that will come out this June on WWDC, and iOS 17 will be a great placeholder for the iPhone XS. I wouldn't buy it for my daily driver. For that, I would look for the iPhone 11 Pro Max or even the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. Those are still quite cheap in 2024, and they have much better processors, much better cameras, night mode, and newer designs and better displays. And of course, they have the ultra-wide camera. This was the last iPhone not to feature an ultra-wide camera, and that's a pretty fun lens to have. If you don't care about that, you just care about taking photos, post on social media, using your social media, FaceTime, iMessage. You want a very, very cheap iPhone that still feels premium, looks very good. In 2024, the iPhone XS for a short period of time, it's still a great option. So let me know in the comments below what you think about the iPhone XS. Do you like it? Do you think it's still worth it in 2024? Do you have one? Have you ever used one? And of course, which was your favorite color? Space black, silver, gold? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Tech Summer talking to you here. Bye bye.